Hey folks, Aaron here. Welcome to day 2 of the 12 days of anime. I'm not gonna be able to do fingers like constantly for this. It'd be weird because then I'm gonna get to like 12 and I'm gonna be like there's 10 and 2. That'd be stupid. So what? I'll just go until I run out of fingers to do it. Anyways, regardless of that, besides the point. So today, from the title, you probably can see that we're gonna be talking about my first venture into romance anime, my first true venture into romance anime. Now, what I mean by that is pretty simple. Romance anime has always been a big thing with me. I've actually enjoyed series for a long time as a younger man. And the thing was that when I was like probably a teenager, I was really getting into romance anime, watching some of the old school stuff. Like I think it was oh, I'm going to my memory banks, but just trust me, I watched a lot of older romance anime out there. Besides the point, though, besides me not remembering any of the older shows, which is terrible, I kind of like slapped myself in the wrist for that. The older shows, I never got into the genre because of them. Because it's like I watched them and I was like, not too bad, but I never really cared for them. It was like they felt a lot of them were melodramatic. If you guys watched the older stuff like that came up before 2000s, a lot of them had melodrama. And the thing was that it was always melodrama, like, oh, let's just make point A, point B, point C, and then melodrama between each one. So this way, when you have that story going through, it's like here's some romance, here's some drama, here's melodrama, here's romance again, here's melodrama, and it would just keep following that same format over and over, like Groundhog's Day, where it never got interesting. I always felt like, man, this is not good melodrama. This is just because you want to throw in some random element to happen, so this way the characters now have some problem to deal with. It's annoying. That's why even more modern day anime, like I tell people, I am a huge fan of romance anime. It's like one of my favorite genres. It is still my technically favorite genre because it's just something when I see a good romance series, I'm like, oh my god, I'm enthralled by it. I have to watch it again and again. A lot of those series don't really exist nowadays. Like I know people talk about Sugakire, people talk about Love and Live, which I think was terrible, but there are some people who agree with me and say it's terrible. Some people loved it. Was it? I think Blue Spring Ride was great. I love that, but it's also one of those series that kind of just ends on a very main note. But the thing is that a lot of the newer stuff, it's good, but it doesn't really hook me or resonate with me very well. It's like I like it, but I feel like it's not enough. Now, one of those shows that had a lot of drama and melodrama, but it was still very well done, is Rumbling Hearts. That's something I talked about before, and it's not the series I want to talk to you that's venturing into like romance anime. It didn't actually make me go and love romance anime, but it's one of the series that I really got into when I was younger. Rumbling Hearts, in case you guys don't know, is about a young boy and a girl that they fall in love with each other when they're teenagers. She's hit by a truck at one point. I think it was a truck or a bus, and ends up going into a coma. Now, what ends up happening is he ends up with his teenager friend who is now an adult also with them alongside of him, and they're growing up, but their lives are kind of distraught and really heavily affected by this romance that they have because they love each other, but the same token, he's got his original love that he goes to constantly, and it just creates this whole tension where various things happen that are very mature like. But what I loved about this series was that it knew how to do it where, yes, there's a lot of melodrama, but melodrama that feels real. This is like stuff that you can see happening in the real world, and it's stuff that actually happen. I kid you not, folks. There's a lot of stuff that's in Rumbling Hearts that I have personally witnessed from my friends or from people close to me that they have had to deal with before. Like where my one friend had one of his best friends cheat on a girl that he knew, and it caused this whole nightmare thing to happen. Then I even know a reverse where, like, there was this girl that was with this guy, she cheated on his best friend, and it's bad. It causes a lot of stuff, but it's not unheard of. It's not stuff that you can't see happening. So Rumbling Hearts, it's a great series if you like it. I think it came out like the early 2000s, I want to say. Great series. The sequel to it is not that great. There's a sequel. It's not really a true sequel. It's more so like a what if scenario sequel where it's like, what if this happened? The whole story revolves around that. I think. Oh, I'm not gonna spoil it, but you can look it up. It's not that good. I don't think it's that great. I really never enthralled me like the original series because a lot of the drama goes away because of it. It's a whole new set of drama. It just doesn't work well. But the series that really got me into romance anime, and this is gonna blow some of you, especially you guys who don't know, my history with anime. Some of you are gonna be blown away by this, but please, teacher. This is volume 1. Volume 2. There's some opas for you, by the way. Opai. Probably gonna demonetize the video by doing that. This is 3. And then it has the 4th one. This is the last one. Because it was, I think, I want to say it was 12 or something episodes. Was it 12 episodes? I don't remember. It was one of the two. Anyways, regardless, Bob, doesn't matter. Please Teacher for me was one of those things that I watched it and it got me into romance. Like it got me into surreal amounts of romance anime. Like from then on, I watched everything that was romance anime for a long time, and it was like one of the few genres that I was like looking for anything that had action or drama or sci-fi, but also romance being the secondary thing to it. It had to be like one of the more prominent features of it. But Please Teacher was something that I got into, and if you guys don't know the story of how I even got the series, quick version of it is I ended up tricking my mom into buying it for me, and I told her this when I got older that she bought this series for me because she's like, "Where'd you get that?" Because she sees the cover, she doesn't know the series is romance. She thinks it's like all like hentai and stuff like that. But I'm like, no, it's actually a mature romance, but it has really very little nudity and all that. It's very tame, even though the name of it sounds horrible. Which because the Japanese name for it sounds a lot better. It's Only Got Teacher, but you know, in this it's Please Teacher. Just how it's kind of like what questionable. But besides the point. She was the one who bought that for me because I actually tricked her into buying the series because I thought, oh my god, this looks kind of interesting. And they had it at GameStop of all things, and this is when GameStop was selling movies and DVDs and anime. And I got her to buy it for me, and she didn't realize what I was buying, so I kept tricking her, like going, "Hey mom, I need money to buy something." And she's like, "Oh, what do you need to buy?" And I'm like, "An anime." And she's like, "What anime series?" "Oh, it's an anime that I'm collecting." And I was always vague as hell with it, but she bought it for me, bought the whole series for me, you know, without ever once seeing what she bought for me. I used to watch it at night just in case anything was, you know, going to show up a graphic and stuff like that. I watched it at night, so this way she wouldn't know I was watching it, but whatever. But it was one of those funny things that was like I still crack up about because especially her reaction now that she knows she bought it for me. She was so like, "Oh my god, how'd you do that?" I'm like, I was that crafty. I was a crafty kid when I was younger. Woo boy. I'll tell you some stories about that one day, but that's besides the point. There is a I want to say sequel to Please Teacher in the form of Please Twins. I don't really particularly care for Please Twins. It's not horrible. It's not that great. I like the books for it. There are novels for it, and there's also novels for Please Teacher. I've read everything with the Please Teacher series. Like manga, I own the manga. I own the light novels. I own the art book. I own everything. I own the soundtrack. I think it's somewhere in closet or something, whatever. And then there's a spin-off where it's not really the same thing, but it does take place in the same universe as Waiting in the Summer. This is good. This is very, very good, by the way. Don't look up the reviews for this. People do not like this show for some reason. I think it's an amazing show. I think it's an amazing romance. It's good. But besides this point, though, Please Teacher, back to that. Please Teacher got me into romance anime because even though it's crazy about, like, you know, the whole concept of a younger student who's actually 18 because he had this thing called stagnation where it actually caused him to go into a coma for many years, which, by the way, I noticed Rumbling Hearts in this also have comas, which interesting. I just now realized that. Like, I kid you not, just this very second that it just dawned on me. But whatever. You know, it had the main character Kai Kusanagi, who he was, you know, I want to say of high school. I think he was in his, I want to say third year, second year of high school. And the thing was that he was technically not the age he was. He's supposed to be, you know, 15, I think, at the time, or 16, but he was actually 18 years old because he was in stagnation for so long. And it was something where his body would shut down if he got really over panicked and just felt like the world was going around him and just not working the way he wanted to. It would cause his body to shut down. Like, it would just, he would be okay, his body would be like running, but he would be in a coma essentially. And so he ends up with his teacher. It's all kind of concept of the story where she's actually an alien who came to Earth, and he saw her come to Earth. And so now they hooked up to one another when a whole bunch of weird series of incidents occur, and they end up getting married, and then they have to share a life together. It's really just over the top, yes. But it's one of those series that it has so much going for it in terms of romance. There's a lot of adult nature to it where, you know, this young man is with an older woman because she is technically older than him nonetheless. And he's trying to be someone that is mature for her, but at the same token, he's not mature himself. Even though he might be 18 years old and in the body of an 18-year-old, he doesn't really look 18, first off. He doesn't act like 18-year-olds. And there's a lot of times where he doesn't understand why certain things are happening to him in his life, and he doesn't understand really how to show love the way he feels like an adult would. So the whole journey between them is, you know, even though she's also a mature person, she's also got a lot of immature nature about her. She's also not technically from Earth. She's been to Earth many times, but she's always studied Earth, so she has to learn a lot of things from him. It's crazy. It's wild. It's full of comedy. It's full of drama, melodrama, everything in it. It's got sci-fi, obviously, because aliens and stuff like that. But it's one of those shows that it got me into romance. I mean, I watched it, I sat down, and I binged Please Teach You when I first got it. And you know, I binged the first one, the second one, the third one, then the fourth one, and then I actually remember when I had the whole series, I watched all of it from morning to night. Like I was just watching it throughout the course of the day. I didn't watch it all in one shot. I watched it through the course of the day, and I just was in love with the series. And then when I started getting the manga, I love the manga too. It's only manga's only 2 volumes long, and it's a kind of different story to it, a different play on it, but it's still the same concept. It's very good. It's not great, but it's very good. And then the light novel series is kind of like just side stories that aren't told in the anime. It's also a pretty good series for the most part. Please Twins, like I said before, it's not bad, but it has really nothing to do with like the main characters of Please Teacher. They show up once or twice, like she's the teacher of the main character, but at the same token, they don't really go into like a lot of the stuff with her. And Kai only shows up like twice, maybe if not maybe once the whole series, like for more than a second. I think he shows up twice. I think he shows up like early on as like this character who just randomly hears his name called and he like turns around and he's like, what? And then there's another time where he shows up in a camp scene, which is the very last episode where they're like all together shacking up and he's there with you know her, stuff like that. It's you know, it is what it is. It's a good story, don't get me wrong, good romance. It's not Please Teacher. Please Teacher to me was always one of those romance anime that I started watching a lot of romance anime from it. And again, it's like just like Guyver series, which I talked about last video. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not like a show that I'm gonna tell you, oh, it's like my top 10 per se. It's not really my top 10 all the time. It's one of those shows that it does fluctuate, getting very close or being within the realm of my top 10. But I've seen better, and I've seen stuff that I've really liked a lot more than Please Teacher, obviously. But it's one of those shows that it's near and dear to my heart. It will always be something that it brings me a lot of joy, rewatching it. I've rewatched it multiple times too, maybe just as much as Guyver. I've reread the manga and I've reread the light novels and stuff like that. I was really into the series, and I've always wanted to see I always wanted to hear the audio book, but the audio thing, there's like an audio story that accompanied one of the things in Japan, but I never got to hear it. That's like always bothered me. But it's like a separate story entirely, but I just always wanted to hear it in English, and I know that's not gonna ever happen, but still. It's one of those things that was how much I love that series. Was I can't stop ever loving Please Teacher as much as weird as it is sometimes, and as quirky as it is. It got me into romance anime, because after that I was watching romance anime nonstop, and I was like, also just like Guyver, I was looking for the next like fix of what romance anime could get me to this point. And there's some that have gotten very close. Like Shakugan no Shana is actually very good. I really enjoyed that. I know some people have mixed things with it, but I liked it a lot. Familiar Zero is a very good series. It's got its moments where it's not that great, but it's also moments where it's amazingly done. And like I said before, there's a lot of other ones, but I can go all day with that. But Please Teacher was definitely one of those things that really got me into the romance genre. Anyways, here's my question for you guys today. It's not about romance, actually, surprisingly. What is one series that you bought you bought somewhere, but the thing was that your parents never knew about it? And no hentai, by the way. I'm not talking about like stuff like where it's like, oh, I put that on my bed because I can't. No, I want series that, like, the best way I could put it is if maybe it was like a mature shonen series or whatever, or maybe it was a violent show, whatever. And you bought it and you watched it, but your parents never knew you owned it or watched it or whatever. You can do, if you didn't buy it, you can always say watched it or whatever. That's perfectly fine too. But it has to be a series that is something that you could watch on TV and not have, it's not completely all nudity and stuff like that. I don't want stuff like that. I want stuff that's, it had a lot of violence or a lot of graphic content, but you just try to hide it from your parents as best you could. Or maybe the romance scenes were a little risque, but it wasn't anything like full on nudity every 2 seconds. I don't want stuff like that. Hentai is not included in this one. So if it's a hentai related thing, I don't want to hear about it, to be honest with you. Or I won't even respond to it. You can put it in there, but I won't respond to it. I want to know a series that you watched that was a legit series, that was something that was really near and dear to your heart, but when you watched it, you always had to hide it from your parents. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later on day 3, excuse me. I'm going to try to get that done tomorrow, which is, I don't remember what tomorrow is going to be. I think it's like Friday for this video. It'll be Friday. I'm going to try to get it done then. I'll see you guys then. God bless you all. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.